As we continue on, we are going to apply the quadratic formula. So we're going to see some word problems, and we're going to see how you might be able to use the quadratic formula for situations in life that have equations. So your school jazz band is selling CDs for a fundraiser. The total profit depends on the amount that your band charges. That makes sense. You know, the more you sell, probably people aren't going to buy them. This is the equation. Profit equals negative x squared plus 48x minus 300. X is how much you charge, P is the profit that you will get, and what is the least amount in dollars you can charge for a CD to make a profit of 200. So here we go. First thing, we want the profit to be 200. So we're going to plug 200 in for the letter P, okay? So I'm going to get 200 equals negative x squared plus 48x minus 300. And then do you see we're ready to go? Now that guess what we've done is we've taken it away. It's not a word problem anymore. Look, it's just a math problem now. Okay? Step 1, set it equal to 0. So in other words, move this 200 over. Okay, minus 200. So I get 0 equals negative x squared plus 48x minus 500. Now you do have a couple of options here. I kind of like to keep x squared positive. Knowing what's coming up in your math class, would you mind if I just kind of moved everything back to the left? Okay, so I'm going to move everything to the left. Why am I moving everything to the left? Because I really, really want x squared to be positive. Not necessary, but knowing what's coming up in Algebra 2 probably a good idea. So positive x squared, a minus 48x when I move it over, and a positive 500. And now it equals 0 this way. It's just a good idea to get used to seeing x squared positive, so everything moves over and everything changes. Alright, step 2. A is 1, B is negative 48, and C is 500. We're going to have to get our calculators ready because these are some pretty big numbers. Step 3 is plugging it in. So we're going to do negative B. Well, this time, guys, since B was already negative, positive 48 plus or minus the square root of, now you ready for B squared? It's going to be big. I'm going to have to use my calculator. 48 squared, 2,304, minus 4 times the value of A, 1, times the value of C, 500, all over 2 times the value of A, 1. I'm going to move over here, step 4, or the continuation, is solving it. 48 plus or minus the square root of, and I'm going to put all of that in my calculator because it's pretty big. 2304 minus 4 times 1 times 500. And inside the square root is going to go down to 304. Now I think you know me by now, and that decimals really are not acceptable. 2 times 1, by the way, is 2 on the bottom. So we're actually not going to simplify this because it's a word problem. For word problems, you can get a decimal. I don't know if you want to write that down, but since this is a word problem, decimals are going to make sense to us. Okay, word problem use decimals. So I'm going to get 48 plus or minus, I'm going to get the square root of 304 up here. 48, oh wait, sorry, square root of 304, 17.4, I'll just write that, that's good enough. Actually, I'm going to write 17.4, oh sorry, 17.44, that's rounding, okay, all over 2. And the last step I'm going to get my calculator ready. I'm going to put the top in all at once. 48, let's see here, plus the square root of 304. Notice that I get 65 point pretty much 44. But remember, I have to divide by 2 after I do that. So when I divide by 2, my first answer is 32.72. Now I'm going to do the second one. Okay, this time I'm going to do minus, trying to keep it all up there for you. Ready? 48 minus the square root of 304. You do have to hit enter. So I did the plus up here. Now I'm doing the minus. And then I'm going to do divide by 2, because that's what it says. 15.28. Since X is how much there we're going to charge for each CD, we need to figure out which one's the correct answer. Says, what is the least amount in dollars you can charge? Well, while they're both answers, this one is the least amount that they can charge to make a profit. So I'm going to say charge $15.28 for each CD. And that's all you have to do. Okay, moving on. Now you might see the book say to charge $15.29, just so you know. The reason being is because I guess if they technically charge $15.28, they're not going to make their 200 profit, because I actually had to round down. See how I actually took that 2 and I just made it an 8? We might want to say they're going to have to charge either $15.28 or $15.29. Really, the back of the book might say $15.29 because they're going to make more than 200 with $15.29, but I hope you understand the concept is as long as you can plug it in and get the right answer, you're going to see the answer one way or the other, okay? But probably $15.29 is a better way of using it. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing again. But this time, in problem 2, the got it, they only want a $100 profit. So we're just practicing over and over and over and over again. So 100 equals negative x squared plus 48x minus 300. Okay, we're going to set everything equal to 0. This time, the first step, let's take x squared, 48x, and 300 to the left to set it equal to 0. Are you ready? Positive x squared, there then I can skip. See how I had it as 2 steps up here? I'm just making it 1 step. Positive x squared minus 48x. Now, we need to add 300, okay? Since there's already 100 over here, we're going to get plus 400 equals 0. I'm going to keep moving on. Step 2, identify A, B, and C. A is 1, B is negative 48. This time C is 400. And then I'm going to do negative B, so it's actually opposite of what you see, so 48, plus or minus the square root of B squared we did up top is 2304. That comes from 48 squared. Minus 4 times A is 1 times C is 400. All over 2 times A is 2 times 1. And now we're ready to go ahead and try to reduce that. 48 plus or minus, get your calculator, 2304 minus, I'll be able to see it, here we go, 4 times 1 times 400. The inside is now 704, all over 2. And since this is a word problem, we are going to put it both of them in our calculator. 48 plus the square root of 704. And then we need to divide by 2. So the first answer is 37.27. I'm going to round up since we kind of talked about that last problem. And 48 minus the square root of 704. And then divide by 2. See how it says $10.73? I'm going to make that $10.74 because if they charge $73, they actually won't make the whole $100 that they need. Okay, so here we go. Which answer is the least amount possible? You want to choose the least amount possible. So they are going to have to charge $10.74 for each CD. And now we have a part B. Would a negative profit make sense in this problem? Would a negative profit make sense? Maybe I should just explain to you what a negative profit is. A negative profit would mean they made no money. They spent more than what they made, pretty much. A negative profit would mean that they spent more than they made. Okay, let's get problem 3 done, and then we'll have one more video for problem 4. Problem 3. A lot of words happening here, okay? I'm going to try to explain this. Well, I'm going to go through the chart, and I'm going to try to explain it all as best I can. A quadratic equation, in other words, x squared, can have 2 solutions. They can have 2 solutions, they can have 1 solution, or they might not have any solutions at all. And these are all real solutions. When you get to 4-8, we'll talk about what imaginary solutions are. But they can have 2, 1, 1, or 0 real solutions. The quadratic formula, the value that's under the radical symbol, so this value right here that we typically see underneath the radical symbol, it tells you how many real answers you're going to have. In problem 1a, if we flip back to problem 1a, I think I have my paper right here. Here it is. In problem 1, what does it say? 1a, we were greater than 0. So if you look right here, we were bigger than 0. See how we got a positive 33? That's what they're saying. That means it would have had 2 solutions. In problem 2b, or 1b, I'm going to pull that one out. Ready? Here's problem 1b. See how we got a square root of 0? Since we got a square root of 0, that meant there was only 1 real solution. Okay? This idea is called the discriminant. I really need you to memorize that word, please. Put it on a note card or on a piece of paper. The stuff inside the square root and not including the square root itself. That's an important thing students kind of sometimes forget. The stuff inside the square root is what we call that discriminant. So let me teach you what the discriminant kind of does. And on a picture, maybe this is a visual graph. You're a visual learner like I am. Maybe this graph will be helpful. Okay. If your discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, if it's bigger than 0, what they're saying is that it's positive. If it's positive, it has 2 answers. If it has 2 answers, that means it crosses twice on a graph. Let's try that idea again. Let's say that the stuff inside the square root is 0. That means you're going to have 1 answer. And if you have 1 answer, that means it only crosses once. If your square root is lower than or smaller than 0, in other words, if it's negative, it's going to have no answers at all. You can write none instead of 0 if you like. And that's because it never, ever crosses. This is the idea of a discriminant.